Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today. Weather forecast at the moment, still lovely out there, so I'm just going to hope that it's going to last. Um, I've been just listening while I've been sat here to the lovely sound of the children going back to school, the joy that is there. It's really lovely. It's also rather lovely the fact that my grandchildren have gone back to school as well, so we can breathe. But it's really a conversation that I had with my grandchildren that have set my thoughts um, going today. Um, After being told that Nanny and Granddad no longer babysit, we actually child sit. I was with them a few days, a couple of weeks ago now, child sitting while my son went shopping. And they were having a conversation, but were constantly dropping their H's and their T's, which, come on guys, it's water, not water, and hair, not air, and so on. So of course they started to wind me up, dropping all the T's and H's they could. So I got them onto some of the old tongue twisters we used to mess around with as kids, like she sells seashells on the seashore, and Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled pepper. Glad I got that right. And red lorry, yellow lorry. It lasted for a little while, bit of a giggle, and then they went off and did their own thing. But there's been one of those sayings that's been sort of buzzing around in my head for quite some time now, but I just couldn't remember the whole of it, so I looked it up yesterday, and it was for the want of a nail. And there's been many different variations of this particular saying, and this is the one I sort of picked out of Wikipedia. And it says, for want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And all for the want of a horseshoe nail. Now that apparently first appeared as being recorded in about 1230 in Germany. But there have been many different variations, slightly different variations that have been used by different circumstances throughout history. But it sort of got me thinking, that there are other sayings, aren't there? We think about that the stone that is thrown in the mill pond. The stone will disappear below the surface, and you'll never know what's caused the ripples that come out of it if you didn't see the stone thrown in. And those ripples going outwards can be very positive things. They can send out wonderful messages. They can also be very destructive. And we use a lot of these sayings in our everyday life, but I wonder just how many of them we actually sit down and take apart and think about. It's a little bit like the onion. You take the top layer off the onion, you take the skin off underneath, and you keep going down. So I said to God, okay, where are you going to take me with this? Is this what you got planned? And I eventually came down to thinking about the Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, and all the different things that come in there, and how we use them, and how sometimes they can be used for good, and sometimes how they can be misused. And of course, it led me through to 1 Corinthians 12, and where Paul is talking about parts of the body, our part to play within that body. And I've taken these two verses from 1 Corinthians 12 from the Message. You can easily enough see how this kind of thing works by looking no further than your own body. Your body has many parts, limbs, organs, cells, but no matter how many parts you can name, you're still one body. It's exactly the same with Christ. By means of his one Spirit, we all said goodbye to our partial and piecemeal lives. We each used to independently call our own shots, but then we entered into a large and integrated life in which he has the final say in everything. This is what we proclaimed in word and action when we were baptized. Each of us is now a part of his resurrection body, refreshed and sustained at one fountain, his Spirit, where we all come to drink. The old labels we once used to identify ourselves, labels like Jew or Greek, slave or free, are no longer useful. We need something larger, more comprehensive. And it sort of started thinking about that, not sort of looking inward at that saying, but looking at that reading and the sayings, looking at in an outward direction and at how it affects our wider lives. And I've become more and more aware over lately, particularly with the pandemic and that, this is not something that's happening to me or to you. It's happening globally. It's happening to the whole world. And one of the things that Jesus also told us to do was to go out and baptize all nations in his name. So here was sort of coming back to this reading, that it's all people all around the world, not just one or two. So if one part of us is hurting, then we're all hurting. It could be that each one of our church here in the UK and around the world is a different part of that body, and that we need to come together closer and work together as one body. The final word came up was the nail that was used to take Jesus' life is the nail that can give us life. Something I've never thought about that nail. We think about that nail as the nail, the three nails in our Lord, that, you know, they're the nails that cause the pain and the anguish. But through that pain and anguish, has given us the opportunity of life. So let's rejoice in that life while we can. Let's rejoice in everything we've got. And yes, it's difficult out there, but in our hearts where God resides, let us find that positive love, that joy, that the Spirit comes to bless each and every one of us, whoever we are, wherever we are. All we have to do is call on his name and ask him to come into our lives. God bless you all. Hope to see you next week. Be safe. Enjoy the nice weather while you can, because according to the weatherman, it's not going to last. Blessings. Bye bye for now. Hope to see you next week.